Comrades, welcome back. This year we're celebrating 30 years of democracy. But more importantly, load shedding has celebrated its sweet 16 in January. We missed load shedding in the lead up to the elections, but like a drunk uncle at the family function, Julian, we know we will see him again soon.
The power plants can run in a very specific mode where you're able to have high availability for a certain period of time, typically between 3 and 6 months. And this is not advisable. And I suspect that by June, July, depending on how cold it gets, you are going to get this increased unavailability.
On the campaign trail, almost every party promised to
end load shedding.
End load shedding. End load shedding within 6 months.
But how realistic have their promises been? Let's get away. We asked people at the March for System Change earlier this year about how load shedding affects them.
When there's load shedding, light candles, hand candles can end up burning the houses.
You can't start it when there's load shedding.
Our fridges go off and we can't even iron our uniform. We can't clean.
Once there is no power, there is no street lights in our areas. We've been having this conversation since 2009.
Sir, why is this still happening?
The presentation convinced me that indeed there will never be a load shedding again.
The load shedding before the end of the year should have been something of the past.
We are confident that the worst is behind us and the end of load shedding is finally within reach.
They like words, these guys. The ANC, masters of promises. But what's their plan this time?
The government solution to our energy crisis is the Integrated Resource Plan, aka the IRP, or as we like to call it, the RIP for renewable energy.
At least they have a plan.
Well, hold up, not so fast. A leading energy think tank called Meridian Economics points out that if we follow the roadmap in the IRP, it would result in extreme levels of load shedding until 2029.
So basically, we're going to have load shedding until the next elections?
Yep. And I'm not saying that maybe someone in the ANC intentionally doesn't want load shedding to end, but consider this. When the demand is too high, the coal is wet, or the power plant breaks again, we go for our backup plan, burning a ton of diesel.
Eskom burns over 100 million rand worth of diesel a day.
It's for those moments when South Africa just needs a bit of an extra kick.
Eskom's diesel dealer is PetroSA. Eskom is overpaying for this diesel because Gwede Mantashe refuses to grant them a wholesale license. And guess whose department PetroSA falls under? You guessed it, Gwede's.
The minister has also refused to say who benefits from the diesel contracts. PetroSA benefits, but there are also private suppliers who sell to PetroSA.
Now, if you want to expose the business of PetroSA, you're basically killing it.
Now, we're not saying load shedding is in anyone's interest. We're just saying someone is making money.
Another problem is the IRP models their cost for renewables on outdated 2021 prices. They don't take into consideration that renewables keep getting cheaper.
You know, these costs are evolving very rapidly. I mean, in the last decade, onshore wind has come down by 68%. Solar PV has come down by 88%. You've got to put learning curves into your models.
And when looking at the different options, the IRP systems strange stuff, including potentially the need for more gas than what many experts recommend. To understand why less or no gas is preferable, we're going to bust some myths.
The world needs fuels that are abundant, affordable, and lower carbon. Fuels like natural gas.
Contrary to popular belief, gas isn't much better for the environment compared to coal. Yes, it only emits half as much CO2 as coal, but it leaks when you transport it from its source. It takes only 0.2% of gas to leak to make the emissions as bad as coal.
Oof, that's a powerful gas, what the hell?
Gas is also not the cheapest option or the most predictable in terms of price, and they fluctuate wildly. The IRP even admits that this substantial gas addition would cause total emissions to increase in the long run. Now we have to mention, it's not just South Africa that is thinking about more gas even though it has carbon risks. A few months ago, Germany announced it's spending billions of euros on new gas power plants.
Do what we say, not what we do.
Our big criticism of this IRP is that we couldn't understand the way the models were constructed and all the assumptions that they were using. I mean, many other stakeholders complain similarly. There's some technical issues that this IRP team's going to have to go away and answer.
Okay, last problem. The plan recommends a much smaller role for wind, solar, and battery, even compared to the previous IRP, even though it's the cheapest and cleanest option. Makes no sense.
But we must remember, even though the IRP is supposed to be the ANC's position, it's not the only ANC or government plan out there.
The Presidential Climate Commission, set up by President Ramaphosa, for instance, recommends building 50 to 60 gigawatts of renewables by 2030, much more than the IRP.
What we've got to do is aggressively build the green economy now and create the jobs and build the power supply to transition our energy system, and we do it systematically over 30 years.
The ANC-led government also signed and Parliament ratified the Paris Climate Accord.
But that section of the ANC is not everyone's ANC.
I'm not going to disown the IRP 2023 entirely. It's my position that I must hold, but also say it needs to be further developed because it is very limited in how it articulates the problem of energy security. A replacement of coal in the medium to long term has got to be a replacement directly with another energy source that will be abundant, that will be cheap, that will be viable over the long term and sustainable. And the science of energy now tells us that your best bet in that regard is nuclear.
Many people think nuclear power is one of the cheaper options, including our Minister of Electricity. Nuclear energy is many things, but cheap it is not. This graph shows the so-called levelized cost of energy. This is calculated by adding up the building costs and your maintenance and fuel costs, and then dividing that by how much energy the plant produces over a lifetime. As you can see, nuclear power is not so cheap.
But what about the other political parties in South Africa? What are their solutions to load shedding?
The EFF talk in their manifesto about using carbon capture and clean coal.
What? Did somebody say clean coal?
There is no such thing as clean coal. If you try and capture the carbon, it's horrendously expensive to do that. Our geology in South Africa doesn't lend itself to underground sequestration.
If you're trying to capture fossil fuel pollution, it's like trying to hold a fart. Eventually it comes up. Okay, so we know that the DA loves to burn flags, but what about coal and gas?
Their manifesto firstly wants to break up Eskom, allowing for more private sector or municipal generation. But the government is already doing this. The DA speaks about diversifying its energy mix and transitioning to net zero. But it's not clear on when and how fast the transition is supposed to happen.
And what exactly does diversify its mix mean, DA?
The 2022 Energy Policy Position Paper supports gas and oil exploitation, same as the ANC. But the DA also wants to reach net zero. The MK party talks about repealing privatization agreements and the unbundling of Eskom. They also want to reverse what they call the unjust transition, renew the coal fleet and build nuclear. So expensive, carbon-heavy ideas.
But at the same time, they want to provide cheap electricity?
It's a contradiction.
Because you don't understand what is called a political something.
What?
I know, right? It makes no sense. And what about all the other parties?
None of the political parties, in my view, have properly encapsulated and embraced the fact that we're going through the biggest disruption in the energy sector in a century. There's a long time ago reached a point where combination of renewables and storage is cheaper than anything else. In South Africa, we're rather lucky. We don't need very long duration storage because we have very good wind and solar resources.
Comrades, I know South Africa's energy future can seem dark at times, but I think there's light on the horizon. I think our democracy is sort of slowly growing up. After 16 years of load shedding, we just need to remember optimism is a renewable resource. Hopefully we don't have to live to see load shedding celebrate its 21st birthday. If we do, I think that's the stage where Eskom comes in and blows up the kettle. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay away.
Ah!